Hello, WebWingers, and welcome back to WebWings as we plough our way through these double-digit episodes. It is episode 11 today, and as always, Alex and Andy are here with you, delivering your regular slice of e-commerce pie. Delicious and profitable is the game.
Welcome, one and all. We've got something a little different to talk about today. We've explained how to set your store up. We've talked about why it's important to describe things properly, and even how to use some of the more basic analytical tools, and even a little bit of how to use the complex tools. Today, though, we're going to talk about consumer behavior. Now, especially at this time of year, for those of you who are also not listening at the time of recording or listening at a later time, we're recording this literally straight after Black Friday in 2023. So we're going to discuss sort of how sales impact consumer behavior.
Yes, yeah, it's Tuesday today, isn't it? So
Tuesday.
We've had Black Friday, and then the weekend, and Cyber Monday, and all of the other.
We've had Black Friday fortnight and everything else.
Traditional holidays, and it's over now. Amazon turned their Black Friday stuff off at midnight last night here in the UK, so that means that's got to be done, right? So we're finished.
Yep, that's it. That's the end of it. Amazon are the leaders in this.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. In this episode, so we're going to be got two web developers who are looking ahead to January. Is part of what we're going to do. We have spent the past couple of lifetimes, it may feel,
it feels like
months setting up all things Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas, and New Year, Boxing Day, all those kind of things. And as we said, it's 28th of November. Black Friday and Cyber Monday have been, gone, done. Hopefully everybody's had a profitable period, and things are looking better than you hope they would, or at least the same. I think it's probably not to go too far off on a tangent. I think it might just be worth mentioning our initial analysis of where things have gone. I think, lucky in our position to have an overview, different ranges of industries and whatnot. So to help those, I think Black Friday was interesting. It was a big run up. There was a big run up.
There's a lot of run up this year. It was a lot of hype.
So much hype and hype. Yes, definitely hype, but interest also. And I think they're two different things. I think there was people who were definitely anticipating with cash and card in hand, which is perhaps different from hype. It wasn't just people talking about it. There was definitely going to be action. It was just what, how, when to capture that. And from what I think has been seen from the snapshot of the cross section of industry that I get my eyes on, I think if you had a following of any sort, if you had a name for your business, if you had all that kind of stuff, if you were at least perhaps, I'm not going to say recognized in industry, but if you were a business that has got your stuff together, you probably had a really good day, Black Friday.
People were out there with money.
People were out there with them, but they wanted to buy big name products. They wanted to buy things that were likely to be discounted and perhaps limited in stock, and they didn't want to have to scrabble around for it later. I think if you had less of that, if you were someone selling more unique products, if you were someone who has less of a following, even if just the business itself perhaps isn't as big as competitors that are doing exactly the same thing and had sales on, I think Friday, and I'm specifically talking about Friday here, probably wasn't as good as you expected. And then I think it's sort of the weekend, it started to pick up for those smaller brands, smaller retailers and whatnot. So I think Black Friday was absolute chaos if you were in a position to exploit it. If not, then the next few days were the chaos for you. And that's...
I think that's quite reasonable to exploit. So.
That was an interesting sort of black and white. Just looking at the stats that have come over the past few days, obviously we don't know what's going to happen this week. We're still not into December yet.
Nope.
People may be waiting. This week is very likely to be a week where a good portion of people perhaps get paid.
As I said, Black Friday's fell a bit funny for some people because it's the last or it's a set weekend or set weekend in November, but in this country we don't tend to get paid before it.
No, there's a few industries that probably will.
Yeah.
There's a lot that probably won't. So by the end of this week, that will have changed, and it's how the shops are responding to that. Because if your customers didn't have the money available when you did your Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, are you going to be looking after them when it comes to what's coming up? So that's going to be interesting. And certainly for me, there has been from some brands, things like that, scrabbling around. Well, do you know what? Actually, we did really well Friday. We need to make sure we can get some back in early December. So there's looking at those things like the restocks. There's also, and I know we touched on this before, and I'm getting way off script here. Andy's probably screaming at me silently. But I think the service-based businesses have probably seen a similar thing. It has been more and more the past few years. It hasn't just been about products; it's been about services as well. Running those kind of sales, and
I must admit, I seem to have had more service-based emails.
Oh, what is it with emails this year?
Yeah, my inbox has been mental.
Yeah, the inbox, particularly Saturday.
Maybe not as much mine. My wife's, obviously, she does a lot more online shopping than I do. I'm a Scrooge. I don't buy things. She spends money on my behalf. That's probably the way of describing it. But hers, at 10 o'clock on Friday, she'd cleared her emails. There was 0 unread. By 11 o'clock, she'd got 105 unread emails.
Yeah. It was. They were pouring through. There was businesses trying to capture that, and I don't know if it was particularly service-based businesses who perhaps have more scope. You know, if you're booking people in for something or a service, you can just kick it down the road a little bit. It's not about stock as much. You can easily say to someone, "Oh, actually, it's been really busy today. You know, we're looking at January or late December or whatever for that." Which makes it easier for them. Or was it businesses that are scrabbling around trying to get those sales? From what I've seen, I think probably those that are in a position to be sending out those emails to mailing lists, they probably did all right anyway. But
generally they probably do want to start with. They've just pushed it as much as they can.
Yes. So, sorry, should we get back to consumer?
Yeah, should we perhaps talk a little bit about consumer behaviour? You know, what we said we were going to talk about.
All right, go on then.
Now, it may sound like a scary concept that would probably be a little bit more at home on a psychology podcast, but we are varied human beings. We can talk about many things, and realistically, the things that influence your consumers are things that we've been banging on about, discussing productively. 10 episodes so far, informatively. That's a word as well. I
never bang on.
No, so apologies if some of this perhaps feels a little familiar from other episodes, but today we're going to concentrate more on behaviour during this specific time of year, so consumer behaviour in sales and over Christmas. And we've looked at it over the last few weeks, even months, in deciding on how we were approaching things with some of our retailers. And we've got 4 main categories that we're going to use to describe the way that people make a decision to purchase during this period as opposed to at other times.
Yes, you got impulse buying is the first one. It's the one people think of. It's generally, surprisingly, it's the one that an awful lot of thought goes into. You know, everyone knows what it is. We've all done it. There's no point pretending that we haven't. But
I think calling it impulse buy is a little bit unfair, actually.
Well, you wrote the script. That's the title you gave.
I know, but I mean, the
walls come down. Carry on.
Quick, carry on. It is. It's a generalised statement, but it's not always that impulsive.
No, No, and that's the thing, and that's what we say, isn't it? Because it's not, more effort goes into making people guided towards those impulse purchases than the purchases that they already know that they need to make, because that's where you can, that's the upsell. It's the upsell that happens whether you're, like me, standing in a supermarket next to the checkout. Oh, look, there's a bar of chocolate. Yes, please.
Yes.
It's that kind of thing,
if
isn't
they
it?
put a selection of fruit there, you'd be less likely to make a purchase.
If they put a selection of fruit next to it, I could quite happily walk by it every single time. Not that I don't like fruit, I just prefer chocolate.
Who doesn't?
But it is, isn't it? It's the sudden purchase that you get, the little hint of adrenaline, excitement, and you wouldn't necessarily get that, going back to the analogy, if you pick up an apple.
No.
You probably would get it if you pick up a nice bar of dairy milk. And that's why the effort that goes into those impulse purchases needs to be relevant to what the person is likely to think about purchasing anyway. You need to make sure it's something that they would purchase. You're very unlikely to get somebody to make an impulse purchase that they wouldn't purchase. That's not to say it can't be a one-off, but it needs to be in the right vein for them. And it's got to be generally affordable. You're not sticking, £3,000 worth of televisions in your impulse purchase section. But it's, by that very nature, when you're leaning into those as a retailer, it's going to be the hardest to predict or influence or control, beyond the fact that you have to very carefully think about the type of shopper that you have in your environment and what would they impulse purchase. Well, if they've walked through this area of the online shop or the physical shop and they come through, they've probably bought these kind of things, and there are certainly tools that you can use to create that kind of impulse purchase that's relevant to them. But if they've bought certain things, they might be more likely to buy on impulse something that complements it well. So although we do say it's hard to predict, and that is certainly true, the control that you have as a retailer of any sort is that you're giving them a gentle nudge. You're getting them off the proverbial fence just by making sure that those positionings of products you've made are at least in the ballpark before you even stick them on the shelf, virtual or otherwise.
Yeah. And then links in quite nicely as well to the next thing we were going to discuss in the next category, which is our old friend FOMO, or fear of missing out, for those who are not down with the kids. Maybe it's not kids. It's maybe not the kids that use that statement anymore.
No, I think it's quite an old one, isn't it? You made yourself very old there.
Oh, I am very old now. Excuse me. So I've been looking as a business, or for business purposes, to purchase a new laptop for probably about 6 months. I've got a price point in mind of what I want to spend, but I've also got a specification that I want, and those two don't realistically meet very well. So it's not an absolutely necessary purchase. I have got a laptop. It is dying, but I have got one. It's getting slower. The battery is not up to a day's work anymore, and as I get out and about meeting clients more than I ever used to, the amount of virtual meetings I'm doing are decreasing slowly, which is a strange feeling. It's not a necessary purchase, but I can justify it, which is the thing the accountant wants me to be able to do. So through the last few days especially, I've spent many minutes looking at all the retailers and all the manufacturers, looking for a laptop that I'm describing as the one. And I've noticed, especially while browsing, many of the offers that would say, oh, we've got a limited time left for that deal, or there's a limited number of units available at that price.
For those.
Yeah, and they represent it even better now. So they don't just put, oh, there's 500 of these available, because you don't necessarily know how many of those have sold. There's just a little percentage bar that says at 60% sold, and 60%, that could be 6 of 10. It could be 6,000 out of 10,000. I just don't know what that figure is. And it just gives you that little bit of encouragement. And so while I was browsing, I did find one. It got the percentage sold bar on it, and it was on a highly popular manufacturer's website, which I don't generally find the manufacturers to sell as cheap as some of the retailers. But it was at a price I was happy with for the specification I wanted, with one sort of slight give, which I really wanted more RAM, but I accepted that I could change it myself down the line, having researched the fact that I could take the stuff out.
It wasn't in bright pink either, I think you said.
It wasn't. That was my second compromise. Yeah. I really wanted a Barbie pink one. Yeah. However, so I'd seen it. It was at a price that was better than I expected. It got a slight compromise, which was fine. I clicked into it. The price that was shown, it didn't say from this price. It just took you to another page. Yeah, it didn't even say from. Took you to another page where it then showed you totally different specification at that price. And the only change that you could make was changing the hard drive capacity, or the solid state drive capacity. Sorry, I shouldn't call it a hard drive anymore, should we? And changing the capacity of that was the only way to change the spec of the whole laptop. And at that point, the one I wanted was actually nearly £500 more than the starting price, which angered me greatly because it put it above my desired price point.
Which you would do, right? And the whole thing there, and we know that's a terrible tactic, and it's the one tactic that
it's a horrible tactic.
Anything in the world is, particularly, you go on, and I'll perhaps single out some sites here that allow you to have variations in that. Things like eBay, Etsy, whatever else. If you're buying something, you go on there, you select whatever, and it turns out that one of them is significantly cheaper than the other, and it turns out it's just an accessory of some sort for the product.
Yeah,
that's a horrible tactic. Don't use that. Do you know if you're using that on your site? Not interested. Go away. Don't want you listening to the podcast.
Yeah. Stop listening.
Horrible people. Stop doing it.
You have two choices now. You stop listening, or you change your product sales.
Yeah. Do the second one, because
that'll be better.
Benefits, don't they? And it shatters the consumer's trust in you straight away. It doesn't matter. It does. Yes, you might still get sales, but if someone has clicked on that thinking that's the price of the product, it doesn't matter if you're the kind of company that is still offering the product at the same price as everyone else. You think, oh, well, they've clicked on it now. If we're the same price for the actual product they want, they'll still buy that.
Yeah, no.
That's not.
No. It angered me, and I'm put off the brand at the minute.
But can we just say, Andy, that I think you're a pretty good example here of, I won't say what not to do. But
yeah, no, it's true though, isn't it?
What you've described there actually is just someone who's perhaps not narrowing it down in the way. You're an example there of somebody who is an influenceable customer, because you didn't know what product you wanted to buy when you started that journey.
No, I went open-minded. I had an idea of what I wanted on the journey. Yeah, we used it. So I did. I entered into the funnel.
Oh, yeah.
I went in with a slightly open mind, willing to compromise on a couple of things, and came out angry.
Yeah, and that's where you could have very easily likely have been converted into a customer if someone had put the right thing in front of you. And
yes.
We all know that the right thing will actually exist out there. So that's a good example of really making sure that if you're in a competitive market, which, let's be honest, something like a laptop is, if it's something that is likely to have different points of attraction for different people, depending on what they're doing, then you need to work so hard. And yes, I know we're talking about big companies here, but you need to work so hard on making sure that those are presented to the right people in the right way. Because if you've got a customer like Andy, who at this point is a little bit annoyed, we're not bothered that he's cheese off, we won't worry about that. But
nobody else cares.
No, quite. But now you're very likely to probably spend more time looking very specifically into what you want. Whereas previously, you were just on a little bit of an amble around, I'm not going to say journey, amble around to try and find something that fit the bill. Whereas now you've had that pretty poor experience, spending a few days of your life wasting, you are more likely to actually say, well, do you know what, these are the spec I want, and I'm just going to go and search for that very specifically now, because the influencing element of the discovery journey, whatever the hell that might be, has actually not been a great experience for me. So I just need to find something at the price point I want. I need to find that, and then I need to purchase the best of the options that I'm presented with.
Yeah, I'm going to have to settle for the fact that I may have to pay more than I was happy to pay, because I'm now at the point where I want the specification I wanted more than sticking at the price point I wanted.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? You could have been swayed into making a decision somewhere along the line if that whole thing. I'm working so hard here. If you'd found the Nirvana item that had worked really well for you, but it just didn't. I'm trying to avoid the word journey. It just didn't work.
It's a hard word to avoid, isn't it, in this sort of thing?
It is. So the next category that we're going to look at then is probably the one that you're going to end up delving into next, and this isn't an all about Andy episode, but offers. So people who are now looking for something very specific, who are going to try and find those items and that alone. And I think perhaps diving back a little bit, that's probably what Black Friday for a lot of people was this year. It's not all.
Yes.
It is. We did those people that have been thinking, I want to buy an air fryer, a printer, vacuum, whatever it is, those kind of items, or something very specific that they want to give as a gift. And it'll be, okay, if that item hits a good price point on this day, then I'm gonna pull the trigger. And those people, you basically just need to make sure that you're visible, that you've got it at a price point that they'll pay, and that they've got trust in you, and you've got stock. Because when people are in that mindset, it's, do I trust this business? Do I like the price? Can they get it to me where I am when I need it for? And
if you can answer yes to all those things and you
easy.
have a laptop, I will buy it.
Yeah, that's very easy, but they're very hard to put across, and we've discussed that in many podcasts in the past.
Yes, we have.
We shall leave that one without too much detail, but I think that's probably one of the categories that's, although a lot of people are looking for that kind of thing, it's the hardest one to pre-fulfill unless you are simply, you might have whatever this year's Turbo Man doll is. I'm showing my age there with my Arnold Schwarzenegger film reference. But that's the kind of thing. You need to make sure you've got enough of what it is that people want to buy.
Yeah, definitely.
So what else have we got?
Okay, the last section, and I can feel myself slightly bubbling already before I even start talking about it.
Well, don't go fizzing.
We're going to talk about what I've decided to call the necessity to gift.
Sounds like a terrible band name, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Sounds like calling it. Might as well have called this Genesis, hadn't we?
Oh, Phil Collins.
Poor joke.
Yeah, it was.
So it's coming up to Christmas. There is an ever-increasing expectation that we will buy things to gift to different people in our lives, and I decided to list a few of these people that are sort of given to us as a social expectation. I put social etiquette. That's the wrong word. It's an expectation. So we'll start with teachers. We've then got posties, refuse collectors, to use the polite term, people who work in the care sector, family, friends.
Web developers and podcasters. Don't forget those.
Yeah, no, they were most important.
I imagine that people have probably already started.
Everybody's already bought those. I mean,
favorite web developer and podcaster.
Yeah, I mean, most web developers like rum or whiskey. Just as a suggestion.
Details available via the socials.
Yes, we'll put some options out there. So the list of people that it's become good. I've put good social etiquette. It's a social expectation that we will buy gifts for them is growing every single year. And let's not beat around the bush. For me, it's getting really annoying.
You are a Scrooge, aren't you?
I am. Every year at school, there has been a discussion in the playground over who is going to buy what for their little darling's teacher, and then for the teaching assistant, and then for the receptionist and the PE teacher. And yeah, you can call me a Scrooge, but I am in the group what is a diminishing group of people that they don't think we should be sending everybody a gift just to say thank you for doing their job, unless they're a web developer.
Yeah.
However, I accept I'm in an increasing minority, and my mini rant is over. But my point is that gifting is increasing every year, along with the challenge to find something different from everyone else.
Yeah,
and
which is why I think that a lot of businesses that have been doing well this year are those that sell things that can easily be gifted.
Yes, things that are specifically giftable, that aren't just the usual, oh, here's something for your teacher, and it's a mug with the little darling's face on it or something stupid like that.
Yes. But I think perhaps almost, don't want to get too niche at this point, but perhaps it's something that in the part of the world that we're in, and probably the whole of the western side of things is less readily available. I think perhaps in other cultures they do these things kind of a lot better, a lot more smoothly. It's a lot more readily available. You can get gifts to give to people, and they're perhaps better thought out. But if you are somebody who is looking to expand your offering, if you're someone who's looking at maybe even opening into a new niche, the stats are probably there at the moment to say that if you're going to give a gift to someone, you're probably more likely to be looking online these days. It's far easier to browse that way. I think unless you know what you're looking for in a gift, you are more likely to do an Andy and spend a couple of days looking through, seeing what jumps out at you. And that might be something that some of our listeners who are looking to move into a different segment of the market, or perhaps open up one of their existing businesses to a different segment of the market. Gifts for giving are probably something that is worth exploring, because it's ramped up this year. It's been getting bigger and bigger, and there's probably going to be a point where some company out there gets it right, and they present something to people that is just an awful lot easier. Because I don't know, obviously I haven't done this, Andy, but if you've tried looking through the gifts for her or gifts for kids on Amazon or wherever it is, they don't give great. They don't give great.
It's so generic. And no, if I'm going to sit browsing and finding something and I'm going to gift to somebody like that, I want something that's memorable, maybe, or something that's not just the usual crap. I mean, does a teacher need another bottle of wine? Well, yes, they probably do need another bottle of wine. Do they want a lot of chocolate at Christmas? Maybe to last them through January when they've got the little darlings back after their holiday. But these gifts don't last them long. We need to think maybe things that are a bit more environmentally friendly, for example.
That's a good idea.
Things that brighten up their lives. They're the words. We want to brighten up somebody's life.
I don't know why we're naturally gravitating towards teachers here, but that's it's one of those situations where there is an expectation, perhaps, that a gift will be given. And that's probably why.
I think teachers is in my mind because we only had the conversation at school last night.
Oh well, don't talk to other parents in the playground. That'd be awful.
It is awful, but sometimes it has to be done.
You don't want to give those terrible gifts, and you don't want to be the one that finds a bad one. So people who can find that way to present those good options to others, I think, are probably going to make a killing in the market one day. And it's
Yeah,
I know. I know. At the same time, we're saying that, I'm fully aware that if you go online or you go to somewhere like eBay, Etsy, and type in gifts for, you'll be presented with so many items.
Yeah.
The issue is they're almost all the same, which is why anyone who's offering anything different, a little bit of a new idea, is probably doing really well.
Yeah, definitely.
And that will have reflected, perhaps when we get a chance to go through some stats, maybe in the new year when things have quietened down, or maybe not, if we can get a chance to review some of these kind of stats that come out of this. We might be able to glean a little bit more, but I suspect you're right in saying that those who are looking for gifts are going to see that. So
yeah, I think we are.
I think on that note, we've given you enough to think about for today. So instead of continuing to listen to the melodious sounds of our voices and the wisdom that we impart, unless you haven't listened to all the previous podcasts, of course, and then do that before you do anything else, we challenge you to go and spend some time deciding how you might potentially influence your customers to make their purchases going forward. Do you have those things that would make a really good impulse purchase, an upsell, a cross-sell, a gift? And is it presented as such?
Yeah.
There's no point just thinking, we got some good gifts in there. Make sure people know that's what they are. Make sure they've already had that suggested at them before they even get there. Let us know your thoughts. Go via
Make it easy for them to find them. That's my other thought.
Yes, just like it is to find us on our social media or via our emails.
Exactly. So on that note, we've been Andy and Alex with WebWings, and we hope you have a safe onward journey, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.